Welcome to Watch Symposium. I'm Austin. All right, so I just finished at the sports club, and so you guys probably know what watch I have, or do you? I was riding my bike to the sports club earlier, and I passed this older guy, and I noticed his watch. He had something on a leather band, and I remember thinking, well, I wonder if he put the leather band on, if the watch came like that, and if so, he's probably a watch guy. I thought about stopping him and chatting about watches and seeing what he had on his wrist, but I thought that would be kind of weird. All of those thoughts in about the span of half a second. And then my attention turned to my own watch, and I thought, wait, did I put on the Casio earlier? And I looked down and had on the Explorer 2 still. I've been wearing this for a couple days. And I could have turned around and gotten the Casio, but I was halfway here, so I thought, yeah, I'll just see what the Explorer 2 is like as a sports club watch. And I'm kind of glad I did. It was sort of interesting to see it in this environment. If I had had something like a Datejust with a Jubilee bracelet, I don't think you could quite pull that off. But I remember seeing a couple weeks ago an older gentleman I mentioned. He had on an Explorer 1. Well, those are just called Explorers, but I'll call it Explorer 1 to curb any sort of confusion between this. And how was it? How did it do? Yeah, I mean, it's clearly not made for this environment. I mean, the Casio feels a little bit lighter. It feels a little bit better on the wrist when you're lifting weights. I mean, this is a metal bracelet, and it just doesn't have that give that rubber does. Of course, when sweat happens, it doesn't feel as good. It kind of gets a little slick, slimy. But it was interesting to look down and see this. It was kind of like, what are you doing here? I felt like a kid who, for the first time, sees their teacher outside of school and is like, what are you doing here? And it's just sort of a mix of seeing something in a different environment, and it sort of made my workout kind of interesting. One thing I noticed is that between sets, I usually wait about 30 seconds to a minute, and if I have on the Casio, I take note of the seconds. So I'll finish a set, and then I'll look down. It'll be 44 seconds, and so I'll just keep that in mind. And it was kind of interesting because I would look down and I would see this, and being analog, I really wouldn't think 44. I would just think, okay, it's at the left side of the dial, and I don't know. It just sort of eased some cognitive load just to a small degree. Of course, I couldn't time my 2 hours, but when I went in, it was 2:20, and I had 2 hours, so I had to get out by exactly 4:20. Kind of easy to remember, if you live on the West Coast, perhaps. So, yeah, it worked. It worked. But of course, I couldn't take it to the pool. I usually take my Casio to the pool. I can't swim in it, so what I have to do is I have to just leave it poolside. And I could have taken this, but that would have been quite a risk, leaving it alone out for 30 minutes. Would it have been fine? Yes, it probably would have been fine. I mean, I don't think anybody comes within 20 feet of my Casio when it's sitting there. I don't think anybody would have noticed it, and if they did, I don't think anybody would have noticed. It's a Rolex, and if they did, I don't think they would have wanted to steal it, and if they did want to steal it, I don't think they would have, because I think they would have assumed that there are cameras around, but still, I would have worried my 30 minutes of swimming, I would have kind of worried about it. And boy, if something happened, talk about feeling stupid. But would I have swam in it if theft didn't exist? Yeah, I probably would have. Well, I mean, I would have taken it poolside. You can't swim in it. But what about if that rule didn't exist? Would I have swam in it? Yeah, I probably would have. Anytime I'm in a situation and I think, should I do this with my watch? I think, can the watch take it? And if the watch can take it and is made to take it, I feel kind of stupid not putting it through its paces and not using it in a way that it's kind of supposed to be used. Not that you're supposed to swim in this watch, but I think if I could have swam in this watch, I would have thought, well, it is waterproof, and why not? Let's swim in it. But it's it's one thing if you've had a service and you're within those 2 years, and boy, I mean, taking your watch in water, no big deal. I mean, it's under warranty. But once those 2 years are up, you're kind of on your own, and you're maybe not so cavalier about taking your watch in water. And the warranty on the service, I'm pretty sure, is up on this. But be that as it may, I still get it wet, and I still treat it as if it's waterproof, and it is. I would I'd bet money on it. I'd bet a service on it. How about that? Now, what's interesting is you can have your watches sort of tested. A service here costs about 70,000 yen, $700, and testing the water resistance is about 200. So it's not cheap. But I don't really have the inclination to do that because, well, I'm not really sure, because if they test it and they say, okay, it's good for another 2 years, it might be worth it. But I don't know that they do that. I'm going to have to research that. Maybe you guys know. I don't know if they just say, as of this point in time, it's waterproof. But next week, when you take it to the beach, we don't know. And if water gets in the case, that's not our deal. And there's no warranty. I have a feeling that's the case, and it's sort of just testing it. Like right now, at present, is it waterproof? So there's no sort of, it eases the mind a bit, but it's not like you have any recourse if something happens a month down the road. Not that it would, but I guess if you get a 5-year-old piece and you're not quite ready to service it, but you just want to get an idea if it's you don't know the service history, and you want to get an idea of whether it's at all waterproof. That could be a good option. But seeing as this has been serviced relatively recently in the last couple of years, I'm pretty convinced it's waterproof, and probably in the next bit of work I'll have done on it is just another overhaul when kind of something goes wrong. That's sort of another interesting topic we could talk about right now. This is just sort of I made this video just to say, hey, I took the Explorer 2 to the sports club, yay. I didn't really have any theme that I wanted to talk about, but that's fine, because themes come up, and one just did come up. No, but I forgot what it was. Well, what was I just getting ready to talk about? Okay, we were talking about services, and yes, okay. So when will I have it serviced? Yeah, I'm of the opinion that if it ain't broke, don't fix it, and that's sort of my own opinion. And talking to a watchmaker, the gentleman in Kentucky who did the service on the military watch I have, he sort of back that up and agrees that, if it's running fine, there's no reason to get in there and try to fix what's functioning perfectly well. One of the arguments, though, is that parts can wear down. If you're talking a relatively modern watch where parts are not an issue, I wouldn't really worry about it, because if you get it serviced every 5 years, well, that's just $700 a year, $700 every 5 years. But if you can kind of stretch that out a bit, then you can save some money, and the money that you save can go to getting some of those small parts, which probably aren't really all that expensive in terms of a $700 service. So that's how I feel about these watches. Now, if this was a vintage watch and you couldn't get parts for it, that would change the equation, and I wouldn't wait for something to go wrong. I would want to make sure every 5 years that you get serviced and new oil is put in, and the parts aren't grinding against each other, because once those parts go, you're screwed. So you can be a little bit less careful with a more modern watch. That's my take on it. But none of my watches are old enough that getting parts is an issue. So yeah, I'll probably just see how long this goes. And that's kind of another thing. I want to see how long it lasts, how long it can carry on. I mean, 10, 15, 20 years. I mean, you hear about these Rolexes that haven't had a service in 20 years and they're running fine. And, I want to see. It's a bit of an experiment, and, one that might end up, costing a part, but this replaceable, and, not too expensive. So, when I do have a service on this watch, I've told myself that I want to get it polished. But it's interesting because, this is the beater of my Rolexes. I mean, this is the beater of the bunch. And I have more enjoyment and fun with this watch than the GMT and the sub combined. I mean, it's just so usable. And one of the reasons it's usable is it's been polished, and it's been polished not through Rolex. So I feel like it needs a Rolex polish. And I know that's sort of on the agenda in the future for it. And so getting nicks and scratches is not a big deal. And it's interesting to think about how I would treat it if I had gotten this watch and it was new old stock. We all look for new old stock pieces and minty pieces and unpolished pieces. But when you get one of those watches, you very well may not enjoy it to the fullest extent. And it's because this watch, it looks great, but compared to the GMT and the sub, which has been polished by Rolex, it's rough around the edges. And when I say that, it just means that, what do I mean by that? That sounds bad. It's rough around the edges. It's not. It's a beautiful watch, as you can see. But what I mean is that that I think, like I said, it needs a Rolex polish, right? Not a independent polish, which is what it has, which is what it had before I got it, and because of that, it's just not as nice as the other two, and so I care about it as much. I still like it an incredible amount, but I'm not protective over it. That's what I'm trying to say. And so I enjoy it, and I just don't really enjoy the GMT Master 2. I don't like wearing it as much because the value of that watch weighs on me. And, when I got that watch, they were kind of expensive, but now they've sort of it's gone off the hook. And I feel like they are, and this could be said of pretty much all sports models, steel sports Rolexes, they are, for me, not as replaceable as they were a couple of years ago. And if something were to happen to the GMT Master 2, I would be unable to replace it. Could I save my money and get an unpolished 16710? I could, but I wouldn't. I wouldn't do it. You think about what that would cost, and I just wouldn't. I just wouldn't do it. And so, because that watch has gone up, and it's a good thing. It's a good thing for me. I just don't enjoy wearing it, and it has become a safe queen, and that's something I never wanted with any of my watches. I never wanted to have safe queens. I never wanted to hoard, but I find that I enjoy it more. It's sitting unused. It's strange. And I enjoy this more. And I don't have any sort of inclinations or feelings to hoard this. I don't feel as protective over the sub. But the sub, well, it's been polished. So, yeah, the subs are going up too, though. Not to the extent of GMTs, but I feel like the sub is another watch that is a future. Well, I don't want to say a future classic, but like the GMT, really value-wise, there's no way for that watch to go anywhere but up in terms of value. So it's interesting because when somebody gives you something, or if you get something and all of a sudden it starts to go up in value, it changes your relationship with that object. And it's weird. It's like, it's no different. I'm no different, but things in the external world have changed, and prices and people's conceptions and what they will pay and what shops charge, and that sort of starts to influence you and change your way of thinking. And before it was just you and that watch, and thanks to that outside influence, it changes the relationship, it changes the feeling. Hey, not to say that I don't love the GMT Master 2. I probably love it too much. I think that's the problem. But usable, so usable. These are going up a little bit as well, but I feel like this really is replaceable. If something happened to it, I could replace it. But anyways, just sort of the feeling of just being able to be comfortable with your watch, and this is like a source of enjoyment, zero stress. I think I hit it against the locker when I was changing. I don't care. It's cool. I don't mind. This is my quote one watch, right? This is the watch that I sort of feel like I have that connection with, that it is my you know, my what do you call it? Sidekick, my everyday kind of watch. Yeah, I mean, I've got the other pieces, and that's just because, you know, I'm a horological philanderer of sorts. But this is I could be very, very happy just with this watch only. But it's nice to think that I've got a couple cool, you know, steel sports pieces sitting in a box, all minty and nice, and that's sort of a source of pleasure reflecting on that. Anyway, wow, we turned this themeless video into something slightly interesting. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Will I wear this to the sports club again? Probably not. If I did, I probably would want it on, I guess a rubber strap could be good, or a NATO perhaps, but I don't think so. I think the Casio is the best watch for the sports club, but great to see it here. And, you know, when you don't wear a watch to a place, it's easy to start thinking it's because it's not that type of watch, and it can't handle it. But it can handle it, and it did handle it, and I was glad to see that. And it's nice now that I'm done with my workout, not having the Casio on. Back to, you know, I don't have to suffer a shiter on my bike ride home. So take care. Thanks for watching. Leave some comments in the comment section. I enjoy reading them. Take care. See you next time.